Hey, what's up, people? This episode is brought to you by Beach Volleyball National Events. BVNE is the biggest Get Noticed showcase in the United States of America for beach volleyball girls. You got a good junior? You're interested in your girl getting noticed? We have as many as 20 to 25 recruiters. USC, UCLA, LMU, South Carolina, FSU, LSU, you name it, anything that ends with a U, they are there. Come get noticed. BVNE, come play with us. It's also brought to you by NY Varsity Sports. That's me. That's me. The NYV. Episode 29 starts. Wow. Wow, Rob. Episode 29 starts right now. Back in the days when I was a teenager, before I had status and before I had a pager, you could find the abstract listening to hip hop. My pops used to say it reminded him of bebop. Said, well, daddy, don't you know that things roll in cycles? Wave of Bobby Brown, amping like Michael. It's all expected. Things are for the looking. If you got the money, Quest is for the booking. Tribe Called Quest is the
That's
lyrics.
right.
Jason DeBias is the reciter. My right hand man, Rob, keep it McLean. We give the people what they want. What's good?
What's happening, brother?
And I'm back. Rob McLean. Before we get started, I want to share something with you, okay? You know, like baseball, the baseball games, they've been doing like fake fans or like posters and pictures like that.
Oh, yeah.
I looked at the Kansas City Royals game, right? And this guy's up to bat. And if you look really closely like I do, I found this. Look at that. Who the fuck is that? Who's that? Who's
Bernie.
that, Rob? Say it with me.
Bernie.
That's Bernie. That's the dude from Weekend at Bernie's. And the t-shirt behind me says, endless bummer. COVID, you suck. COVID, you suck. All right. And I'm back again. Let's start with our, we got a lot of topics to talk about. We got the UFC last week, and we really could just talk about the main event, Derek Lewis KOing Alexei Olenek. I mean, got that little body kick and then jacked him up, ground and pound. Wow. When you see Derek Lewis hit someone like that, it's straight on like that, nobody gets up. Which is why him and Zingano had a staring contest, which was the worst match. But go ahead. Sorry.
Derek Lewis and Ngannou. I know. No one wants to see it, but it's gotta happen, man.
Yes.
It's gotta happen.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got the UFC, we got the NBA, we got a new episode called To Shame or Not To Shame. But first, we're going to start with My Boyfriend's Back, Bigger Than Before. Hey la. Tom Brady. All right. Tom Brady signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Cam signed with the New England Patriots. The question for you, Rob, skipping all the BS since I've been yapping away, skipping all the BS, who is under more pressure this coming season? Is it Cam Newton or is it Tom Brady?
So Cam Newton has no pressure on him absolutely at all. He's coming off an injury season. He's coming off an MVP type season. So if anything, he's going to perform well, and he doesn't have any pressure on him. He's got a team that nobody really everybody understands that the team around him is only going to succeed if he succeeds. So even if he fails, you can not necessarily call it an excuse, but the team is part of his success as well. So if the team's not good, he doesn't have the option, the opportunity to play at his great level. So all the pressure's on Tom Brady. Just orchestrated your own trade from your team where you've been successful your entire career. It seems as mutual of a parting ways as could have been expected for either side, without any really a war of words or any type of litigation to make sure he doesn't sign anywhere or And then, Rob Gronkowski follows him to Tampa Bay. They drafted a lineman, exactly where they need to draft him. They drafted a fantastic middle linebacker last year. That team is set up to succeed. So if that team doesn't succeed, I look at Tom Brady and say, man, what was Belichick doing for the last couple of years? Because people have been talking about Tom Brady's stats declining for many seasons. And people say, oh, okay, we're going to give Tom Brady the best receivers. They can run down the field. They can cut across the field. It's a different system. He's going to have to throw the ball. So we've never really seen him in an air raid type system. They have an unproven offensive line. He's got to be able to come into a new environment and then create that winning culture, because let's be honest, there hasn't really been winning culture there. Mike Evans, we've seen terrible, terrible things on field, and I'm sure that leads to off field issues. And that makes him not always able to perform at his best. So I think there's a lot of kinks in what could go wrong for Tom Brady.
Agreed.
And for Cam, he's going to one of the best cultures, one of the best coaches, and one of the best franchises that football's ever seen. And he's one of the new age type of quarterbacks of dual threat where they could run and pass. I think that, if we're going to put, where you would stack your chips, I would totally stack my chips in the corner of a super hybrid athlete with an incredible coach who's wants to, evolve with the game and with the players that come in. So I think it's going to be amazing to see what Bill Belichick can come up with for Cam Newton and for the Patriots with the assets they have. And in all seriousness, I don't know how good the offense will be because Tom Brady has to take the plays. He can audible, but he's also, the offensive coordinator's got to coordinate the plays with him and make sure they're on the same level. He's never really had to do that. It's been Bill Belichick for most of his career. So again, I think there's a lot of stock that people don't put into Bill Belichick and what he's done for that franchise. Before he got there, no one really was a Patriot. There wasn't really a Patriot following outside of New England.
Or a Patriot
now
way.
everybody knows him. Everybody knows him because they're successful. Whether that's Robert Kraft or Bill Belichick, that's the Patriots. It's not the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So again, I think there's everything for Tom Brady to win. I think is a huge legacy that he could create if he just has one or two successful years, like a Peyton Manning. End of his career, dominate again, show that his career was dominant all the way through, and he didn't, even at his advanced age, wasn't able to decline and put talent around him. He's able to play great. He's just a great quarterback. So if the season starts or if it doesn't, I think that this is going to be a fantastic storyline, and hopefully maybe see both of them come playoff time.
Yeah. So you're saying pressure's more on Tom than
Absolutely.
Okay.
He's got everything to win, but he also has everything to lose. And Cam Newton, he can only go up.
Yeah.
So
That's a very, very good argument. And yet, somehow, some way, leave it to your guy, the native New Yorker, the kid from Brooklyn, to find a way to absolutely disagree with your assertion. Tom Brady, for all of the reasons you say he has, there's more pressure, or I would make an argument, a gentleman's argument, why he has less. He, as far as legacies are concerned, or him having something to prove, I understand, like, my side of the argument, he has 66 Super Bowl rings, multiple MVPs, finally got his Super Bowl MVP, doing more with less, not throwing the all-star wide receivers and all that stuff. And now the argument is he finally has wideouts. He's got Gronk back without the nagging injuries, and there's little to no excuse why he shouldn't win and have success. So there's the enormous pressure on him, and that's your side of the argument. Interrupt me at any time. My side, please.
Well, that's not necessarily the pressure. I'm just saying that he's going into an unknown, right?
He is.
So it's not necessarily just the pressure. It's more just at an advanced age. Yes, he might have the skills to do it, but does he have the strength to throw the ball 40 yards, 50 yards, play after play, 16 games, and then into the playoffs to be successful?
Not to mention the sports analyst elephant in the room, Rob. Everybody's talking about, can Brady do well without Belichick? Can Belichick do well without Brady? So there's an enormous amount of pressure there in regards to having something to prove is concerned.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that was, yeah. I go with Cam Newton, and I'll tell you why. He went from a guy who was 12-4 to like a 8-8 or quasi losing season. Went to a 15-1 record. Went to the Super Bowl, lost to a legendary quarterback who, by the way, only scored on the 2-point conversion. So that was really just Denver's defense that basically shut down Cam, so much to a point where the MVP was given to a defensive player. I believe it was Von Miller.
Mm.
The pressure's on Cam Newton because he got let go by a franchise he built. Okay, Jake Delhomme, he made everybody forget about Jake Delhomme, okay? Daylight come and me want to Delhomme. Nope, nobody remembers Jake Delhomme. You know the Jake Delhomme that got him to their only Super Bowl prior to. Everybody forgot about him because Cam Newton came into the league as a number one pick, or what have you, electrifying. Scored through 422 yards, his debut against Arizona, and a loss. So there is so much that he has to prove twofold. One, to prove to the world that he still has it, that he's still that Cam. Two, that he can keep his team up when he's up and when they're down, because we've seen some meltdowns in these post-game press conferences where he looked like he'd rather be anywhere but there. And there have always been some questions about, can Cam Newton play in a system that we affectionately refer to as the Patriot way? Everybody's treated equally. Cam don't want to be treated equally, to everybody's knowledge, to my BS assertion too. So the pressure's on him, because if they win, or should I say when they win, because I think he's going to absolutely flourish under the system where Bill Belichick and his offensive coordinator will be like, wait, we got some ideas. But the question is, when that wave crashes, not if, because that's football. There are no undefeated seasons unless you're the Miami Dolphins. When that wave crashes, how does he handle it? Does he still handle it the Patriot way? Does he take criticism in front of his teammates the same way Brady did? Because anyone that's been in those locker rooms knows that Belichick nobody's exempt from that man's wrath. That includes Tom Brady, who we both agree is the best quarterback in the history of the NFL. And now it's Cam Newton, who some people think he might be a little bit more thin-skinned. So the question is, can he take the downs as much as the ups? As much as he handles the ups. And that's where I think the pressure comes from. And that's where you and I have an awesome gentleman's argument where the floor is yours. We can continue this if you like.
Yeah, I would just say that with Cam, I don't think there's a lot of pressure on him because of how Bill Belichick practices. You know, I think that when you practice situations as opposed to plays, or you practice, what your mindset will be in that time. I think that's all a player like Cam really needs is, maturity, for a physical player, and
yep.
Honestly, I think Tom Brady, as great as they were, and that's probably why they were as great as they were, but he was almost underutilized in this type of offensive system.
Yep.
Where they almost had to march down the field every single time. And it's crazy to think that, he would throw at such a high percentage every single time, but you could also get down the field, 20-yard, 30-yard gains pretty easily. So it's just when you see a guy like Patrick Mahomes be able to sling the ball, and I love Patrick Mahomes, but he doesn't always throw the prettiest ball. He can really, rip it. He puts it in a great spot, but he throws some ducks sometimes, and it kind of like lays up in the air and then comes back, So in that essence, Tom Brady throws a more pretty ball. I'm not saying he's a smarter quarterback, but he's a quarterback that wants to work through the pocket. He's very much known for having a very powerful arm in the early parts of his career. In a different system, Tom Brady might have even been better than he was under the Patriots. So I think it's difficult to expect any different from a system when the system's proven to be right. And Cam Newton is probably going to be even more utilized in a system where he could run or throw a short pass or throw a deep pass. And he's the type of star player that the Patriots need with talent. Talent is going to get them touchdowns and extra yards in those first downs and on the third down plays. So, I just think that the system creates less pressure for Cam Newton as opposed to just looking at if Tom or Cam are going to have more of those issues. Because in all essence, I think the pressure's on Tom just because you don't know if he's going to be able to throw the same, deep ball that, of course he's going to work on, he's going to get time with his players, but in that split second, do you trust your right guard to block that guy and you're going to be able to throw that ball in? He's not a young guy. He gets hit once or twice in the wrong spot. He's thinking about health. I'm not saying he's not an Iron Man, just saying, there's a difference.
Shot, man.
Same thing happened to Brett Favre at the end of his career. He was a slinger. But he just made so many mistakes because, he didn't really, he didn't control the game, but still, the fact is your age, Father Time will always get the best of you. And even if Tom Brady plays his best game, he still is behind the time. And unfortunately, it will catch up with him. And I do think that he will have to, underthrow balls. He's not going to be able to overthrow Miles Evans down the field 40 yards.
I
just don't see it happening. You say that, but
that's one of those things where we're just going to have to see.
45 plus, that's a tough ball to heave down there every time when you got guys coming off the edge. You got an unproven offensive line. For me, that's just a recipe for disaster. But I think they can pull it through. I think they're going to be in the playoffs. I just don't think it's going to be as successful as people really think it's going to be.
Yeah, I do.
For me, it's all about the trenches.
Yeah. I do think they'll make the playoffs. There's always a question of who's going to finish first in that division because with a well-coached defense by the New Orleans Saints, they're very. I think we both agree that the Saints, even devoid of talent, even on their worst day, is bend but don't break. Very much like the Patriots. It's almost eerily similar, right? Watching the way the Saints play defense and watching the way the Patriots play defense. But
definitely,
I got to tell you, man, the Saints have been the victim of some huge communication gaffes on defense. Where, if you remember, Diggs got that touchdown with no time left, and another play where wasn't really their fault. There was pass interference call that wasn't called. They've been the victim of so many of those bad breaks where I see Tom actually playing through those, where I see the Saints losing as a result of those. So I'd say the division title's a toss-up. I think both of those teams are going. And as far as Cam Newton's concerned, I like your argument in a sense that if you've ever seen Cam Newton play college football, he had this huge smile on his face all the time in this college environment. That's not necessarily like NFL style coached, which I think will be right up Bill Belichick's alley and right up Cam Newton's alley. I really hope. I'm a good things for the guy. I'm biased. All right. I'm a prisoner of the moment. I've seen him come in a league with a smile on his face. The man has galvanized the NFL. We have more fans watching the NFL because of quarterbacks or football players all around like him. And I wish him the best. And, and the Patriots, I could care less about the Patriots as much as I care much about my boyfriend, Tom Brady. So your call is pressure's on Tom. My call is pressure's on Cam. Got it. Got it. All right. So, hey, next one, this one you're going to love. So a recent poll on the show Get Up. This is the show before First Take. It's on ESPN. A recent poll by the Get Up asked which player who's 21 years old or younger would you want to build your franchise around? And the four choices were Zion Williamson, Luka Doncic. Sorry.
Doncic.
Thank you. It's this, people. Trey Young or Ja Morant. Okay, so 84%, and I'm going to show you guys a stat right here. For the people listening, you that cannot see this, 84% said Luka, 7% said Zion, 6% said Morant, and 3% said Young. So, Rob, your thoughts as far as percentages are concerned? Do they get it right? And if not, who would you pick as your guy, 21 years old or younger, to build your franchise?
I mean, they absolutely got it right. Luka Doncic is like a top. I mean, I don't want to be, but a top 7 player, top 5 type player. I mean, he's in the MVP voting already. The tough thing is, like, people can't understand and accept that players in Europe have a better path to stardom than, or to playing high level competitive basketball than most Americans do. In America, you got to go through a college system. You have to go through, get to the draft and hopefully hopefully get scouted and recruited. And there's so many people in America that's trying to play basketball. And there's probably really good basketball players out here that could go play in Europe and dominate in Europe. But the fact is, it's not.
We're back. We got it.
That's not an option. It's not. If you don't know people in Europe, it's going to be really tough to be in that system. And a player like Luka Doncic, he's been playing from 15 years old against grown men. So at age 21, in his just becoming in his physical prime, he's already had the mental fortitude of playing against grown men, the trash talk, the tough play, not trying to let a kid beat you. And that really does breed some great, great players in Europe. And I think the U.S. should kind of take heed, where I think there needs to be more professional basketball leagues in the United States, where you got so much talent out here. You might as well take advantage of it. But past that, Luka Doncic is absolutely one of the best players in the league right now. He's a 6'6" point guard. When he wants to, he plays some pretty good defense. And on top of that, he's a smooth shooter. He moves around the court with the ball well, and he tries to set up his teammates as much as he can, and he has the skill to do it. Drive the basket, one-leg step backs. He's a really savvy type player, and that's a type of player that's going to be able to last in the league for a long time. I don't think there's really much debate because, Ja Morant and Trey Young are, scoring or slashing type, ball dominant guards. They can assist, but Doncic is getting like 8-9 assists a game, and these guys are getting 6-7 and scoring 17 points a game. Trey Young up to like 20, 23, 24, 25, 26 a game. That's great and all, but Doncic, again, dropping 30, 34 for the season, something crazy, almost 10 assists. This kid is actually really special. And I think it just shows, that the coming of the next game, where a positionless basketball, where you got biggest, whoever's the best ball handler is going to have the ball. If you can shoot, you shoot. If you can rebound. And it's kind of not really necessarily depending on height, because you can outrun players in basketball. So I honestly love it. It's an evolution of basketball. You have, Zion. I don't think that's really, I think that's an ending branch and tree of an evolution. Like LeBron is perfect, almost the most perfect specimen of basketball. But, Zion is he's actually too big. It's the truth. He's got to lose weight, or he's got to start playing a 4 position. But even if he does play the 4 and he doesn't lose weight, he's just too powerful to stop on a dime. So he's got to either change his play style to a two-footed play style and not jump off one leg. You know, that was Jason Richardson did that all the time. But again, he's got to refine his game, and he's the same age as Doncic, who doesn't have to refine his game. And Doncic is dominating, you know, with not necessarily the best talent. So, yeah, that's what I got to say about that.
Well, you know, in the beginning of the season, I probably would have made an argument for you with Zion. Zion is a strange individual where he has kind of like a body like Shaq, but he doesn't land like Shaq. When back in the day when you saw Shaq dunk a ball or just back someone up and just obliterate them. You know, we've seen him ragdoll Tim Duncan, who's one of the best power forwards of all time. Of all time, Rob.
Mm.
And you never heard that thud on the ground when you heard Shaq land. You kind of hear that with Zion a little bit, like that thud where like, wow, where everyone's saying, wow, this guy's got to lose weight, or he's not going to last longer. Or wow, this guy's got to do this, or he's not going to last longer. Wow, this guy's got to do that, or he's not going to last long. So, who do I think the better talent is? I think it's Zion. But as the question, who do you want to build your franchise around? Who's 21 years or under? My hands forced, Rob. I can't combat you on this. I got to go with Doncic. Okay, I got to go with Doncic. I do see longevity in his game. I do see him able to play the point and the 3 and the 2. He could play 1, 2, and 3. His
Easy.
movement, his break, his crossover.
Mm.
These European cats are freaking nice, dude. I mean, the other 2 guys, I'm gonna put them up because I don't want to be disrespectful. Trae Young, right now, seeing the sample size I've seen, there are about 5 to 8 Trae Youngs in the NFL. All right. So, I mean, yeah, can you build around him? Yeah. But compared to who? You can build around a lot of people like him. Ja, again, small sample size. I see the same thing as Trae Young, though Ja, I see him taking over some games more than Trae Young would. So this, to me, in the beginning, there's some unfounded bias where it was a 2-horse race between Zion and Doncic, and Doncic wins because of longevity. The question is, who do you want to build? Who can you build a franchise around?
Unfortunately, you know, we don't get to have the fun talks where it's like, oh, who's better? You know, why would he be better than him? Because most of the time it comes down to health. Now, what would be awesome if, you know, health wasn't a real issue, and to see who's better. I mean, I think it'll be a much closer battle. I still think Doncic will win, you know, but I think Zion can impact the game a lot more. But again, it's like, you know, revving your wheels before, you know, like before you take off every single time at a light. You know, your tires are gonna burn out. You know, eventually. It's just, so he can play that game, but nobody expects him to do stuff like that because nobody sees a 285-pound man just like get off the ground in like less than a second. It's just ridiculous. You know, physics says it can't happen. And honestly, I think what would happen, I feel like he has small ankles. You know, it looks like he doesn't have the correct mechanics. You know, he's just so powerful that no one ever really, you know, made him have to break down his movement and, you know, put emphasis where it needs to be. So I think he just, again, has to reinvent himself physically. And then I think his basketball game is phenomenal. It's high IQ, but, you know, his game needs a lot of physical refinement.
Yeah, I knew right away Zion's style of basketball would translate to the NBA very well. And a lot of people who are good in college, you're like, well, you know, the pros, they move so much faster. Their defense is much more schemed and they're more stronger and they talk so much garbage, get in your head. And no expert, no layman, no basketball aficionado, no casual thought that Zion would not make an immediate impact in the NFL. But Take that and multiply that by 3, and that gives you Doncic. Yep,
It's true.
that's it.
I mean, take that and multiply it by 3 because of people who didn't think that he was going to be something. Zion had the hype, and then he just kind of met the hype. Doncic had no hype, and then beat it threefold. So that's even crazier.
Cool. Let's move on to the next subject. Rob, we're going to rearrange the order a little bit. There was something, an NFL thing, but I'm going to save that for later. Let's move on to the UFC. We got a big event coming up this weekend, UFC 252. It is the third matchup, the trilogy between the reigning defending champion, Stipe Miocic, who, by the way, I remind everybody, is Cleveland's first champion in a half a century. Okay, it's not the Cleveland Cavaliers. It is the baddest man on the planet. The baddest man on the planet used to be the heavyweight boxing champion. That is no more, ladies and gentlemen. It is the heavyweight mixed martial arts champion, more exclusively the heavyweight UFC champion. Whoever holds that title. It was previously Cormier, and before that Stipe, and now Stipe again. It is Stipe Miocic, Cleveland, Ohio, a full-time firefighter, defending his title against probably the greatest heavyweight of all time, one of the top 4 greatest heavyweights of all time, Daniel Cormier, who, by the way, has only lost 1 heavyweight match. So, Rob, I'm going to actually pull it up for the people listening. I'm pulling up the matches so we can pick our winners for the co-main event and the main event, and maybe have a little fun in between. Rob, I'd like to go first for the main event, and we'll work our way down, okay?
Sure.
Main event. This is very, very, very close. I'm picking Stipe, and all of the logic works against it, because if they fought a total of 5 rounds. The first match, Daniel Cormier KO'd him. Slept him first round. The second match, Stipe smartened up. His coach told him, if you want a spectacular knockout, you got to go to the body. And sweet Jesus, Rob, did he work the body. And scored a 4th round KO. And this time, I think it's going to be another war. I think Stipe is going to be able to roll with some of these shots. I also believe with a significant reach advantage, he's going to avoid the clinch. And I think he'll eke out a decision or a late round finish. Your thoughts on who's going to win the main event?
Yeah, I think this is going to be real close, because I think, I think Daniel Cormier is going to come really, really prepared, mentally, strategically, as well as physically. And yeah, I just don't see Cormier really beating. I don't see Miocic beating Cormier, just because I don't think
just
he really
beating him 2 out of 3 times.
He just doesn't have that offensive game. I feel like he looks for that weakness and he tries to exploit a weakness, but I don't see him kicking Daniel Cormier in the leg 20 times to slow him down. I don't see why it took him that long to go to the body if that's how effective it was. I'm not saying Stipe is not a smart fighter, but if Daniel Cormier has his body prepared and doesn't give him free body shots on the inside, then that fight's looking like a Cormier win, and we're not having no trilogy. So for me, when Cormier gets his mind right and on a path, as long as it's not against John Jones in his prime, I don't know who's going to stop him in heavyweight unless, he has another weakness. But I don't see this guy taking him. I don't see Miocic stopping him with body shots again, because Cormier is going to be prepared for that. So again, if he's not going to stop him with body shots, what's going to happen? So we'll see. I would love to see Miocic come out and win. I want Miocic to win, but I feel like Daniel Cormier is going to win. So that's what I'm going to pick.
All of the numbers and all of the logic is on your side, in a sense that DC is a very good self-corrector. If you remember, It's weird because he has so many victories that people use these losses as straw man arguments. The first match against John Jones, which by the way was not at heavyweight for everybody listening at home, that was at light heavyweights. That meant Daniel Cormier had to eat a salad or two and you know and suck himself dry to make 205. First match he got dominated every round, lost a decision. Second match, just self-corrected, right? I thought he won the first round, and it was even the second round before John Jones finished in the third. So with that being said, the logic's on your side because of Daniel Cormier's ability to self-correct, and two, Stipe Miocic's ability to one-punch knockout opponents is not applicable to Daniel Cormier. Like, you've seen Stipe knock people out with one punch or this, and then finish up. You've seen him knock out Alistair Overeem, who kind of has a suspect chin. You've seen him knock out Junior Dos Santos, who could take a shot. You've seen him knock out Mark Hunt. When Mark Hunt can take a shot. But we know those things aren't applicable because we've seen Daniel Cormier take shots. In order to finish that guy, it takes volume striking to finish him. John Jones kicked him in the head. That was a knockdown, but it took volumes of punches to finish, right? When Cormier lost his Stipe, it took a volume of body shots. And then two or three to the head to fall him. And still, when he fell, he wasn't out on his feet. He got finished on the ground. So the logic is on your side, but my gut tells me somehow, some way, Stipe is going to win this match. All right, let's go to the second one. Let's go to the co-main event. This is your boy. Sean O'Malley against Marlon Vera.
Why is it 135, 145? This guy
So
just
weird,
didn't want to gain weight.
And I've right, they didn't even weigh in yet. What's the problem? Oh, Marlon Vera fights in two weight classes.
Oh, okay. So he's moving down to 135 again.
He would have to. I mean, I don't see Sean O'Malley eating three steaks and making 145.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I have Sean O'Malley obviously, but I think it's going to be a tougher fight. You know, I want to see him challenge. You know, he's been getting freaking nobodies, and he's like already 12-0 fighter. Like, he needs to be fighting somebody, and I don't. Whether he wants to be an undefeated fighter or whatever, that doesn't really matter. Like, you got to face some people, you know. So I can't wait to see this fight. I really want to see how he does with some decent competition, with somebody with some reach as well. You know, I don't even know why they put the last guy against him. That was just a joke, honestly. And yeah, I still want to see if Sugar Sean is a real deal. I mean, I loved his toughness, but he also doesn't necessarily have, you know, crazy knockout power for his division. He's just really long. He has great techniques, and he's really accurate. He's a great striker. But let's see what happens when he gets somebody wrapped around him, and you know, he's ground and pounded for a round or two, or you know, he has to wrestle and play defense before he strikes. You know, like that's why the last fight was not even a fight. This guy was literally just sitting in front of him.
I think it's time for him to have a real match too. I mean, and I don't like using that because Eddie Wineland, okay, he's a win some, lose some fight. He definitely won significantly more than he's lost. But the thing that impressed me is that Wineland got finished. And Wineland's hard to finish. Jose Quinones, if you've ever seen this dude fight in the independent circuits, the indies all the way up to the UFC, that dude, you can run a taxi cab into him and he's just going to keep getting up. So the thing that impressed me about these O'Malley with these fighters is that he finished them. All right, did he beat him? You're right. Those are not big wins because those guys don't have a number by their name. I get that. But those guys are not easy out. So the way in the spectacular fashion and how he finished him, I thought Winey was like a walk-off, right? It was like a head kick or a walk-off knockout.
No, it was right to the chin.
Yeah, which on a walk-off knockout, you see in the heavyweights, all right? Because like Mark Hunt's like, he's done.
Yeah, he don't need no.
Right?
His chin doesn't need.
Yeah, because they see it, because heavyweights and the heavier weight classes, they see it and they know it, but you rarely see people get slept the way this kid is sleeping people at 135 pounds. So Big, 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 big spike in competition because if you know anything about Marlon Vera, dude, look out, shout. I mean, this dude. If I'm actually gonna see if I could pull up something on him, but I believe he's a Mark Henry guy, Marlon Vera. Where is it? Stay with me, Rob.
Of course.
Marlon Vera is 15-6.
Mm-hmm.
Andre Ewell, Hernandez, good fighter. Frankie Sainz is a good fighter. These guys who bounce around from 145 to 135. And yeah, the dude's a tough out. I do pick. Okay, I asked the question. I pick O'Malley to win this. The question is, can he take someone who's a tough out and win in the same spectacular fashion? If he does that, you got to put him up there. I think his next match has to be, he wins this, his next matchup has to be Aljamain Sterling or someone. Maybe even Dominic Cruz's comeback fight or something after his loss. Right. Thoughts?
That'd be cool. I mean, yeah, I think he definitely catapults himself with a win against Marlon Vera for sure.
Here's one that's flying under the radar that coincidentally is on the main card. Magomed Ankalaev against Ion Kotalaba, man. This dude they call the Hulk. If you've ever seen him, he paints his skin green for the weigh-ins. And this whole mean mugging and this thing that he does where people are like, oh, this guy's acting like he's tough. It is 100% psychological advantage. The guy wins a lot of his fights before they even start because they think he is insane. But Magomed, I believe he's from Dagestan, the same thing as Khabib. And at light heavyweight, picture Khabib at a heavier weight class. That smothering style where he could take you down and make you quit before you tap out. And when I say quit, I don't mean by submission, by tapping. I mean literally quit. You just don't, after the second round, you're like, I don't want to be in here anymore. that batch of fighters from Dagestan, Russia are like, whatever's in the drinking water or whatever they're juicing up that the athletic commission hasn't detected. Look out.
No, I think it's just the style. I mean, no one knows how to defend against a Khabib, smothering, but also, it's technical. I think it has to be respected. I don't think it's respected. A lot of people just, put it as people like to say, putting your head in your crotch. It's not that. It's not wrestling. It's ground hand-to-hand combat, and they're dominating people because they're not, it's like the Gracies back in the day with UFC 1. Nobody really respected the ground game, and they were just like, well, if I just knock you out, you can't go on the ground. Yeah, but I could get you on the ground a lot easier than you can knock me out. And if you don't know what you're doing down there, you're going to lose. So I feel like it's just the same thing.
Excellent example.
Same reason that, Robbie Lawler got, dominated by Kobe Covington, same reason why Tyron Woodley got dominated by Kuzma.
But we did kind of see that coming. Like anyone that's followed Robbie Lawler in Strikeforce that saw him fight fighters at 185 that were similar, like Jake Shields, or I think he might have fought Tim Kennedy, like these guys who are really good wrestlers. We knew that it could happen. And Kobe Covington, as much as you hate him, his wrestling, Rob, is to be respected. It is to be respected. How about your boy? Let's plug in your boy before we go. Where is he? Right here. Where is he? Right there.
Yo, Johnny.
Yo.
He's back.
The guy with a smile on his face, Robbie. The dude that's always smiling big like, yo. I'm like, dude, was it red panty night last night? What's up, man? The hell you so happy about? So that's another match. But before we move on to the next thing, big up to Derek Lewis. Absolutely sleeping Alexei Olenek, who is we all know is a tough out, who's got pretty decent hands, but pales in comparison to his wrestling. And as you mentioned, with the Gracies, like the guy on the bottom, you're like, wait, holy shit, the guy on the bottom just won? How did that happen? I give you Alexei Olenek.
Yep. Well, the other thing is you see what Derek Lewis did to Olenek's food. the UFC sent Olynyx food to Derek Lewis, and he spit in it because it said it needed more seasoning.
Ah! This
was
is the
like,
guy
oh
who
my
got a
gosh.
sponsorship from Popeyes because he said, I want to fight Daniel Cormier because he disrespected Popeyes. A day later, Popeyes gave him free Popeyes for life.
Well, hopefully he doesn't eat that because he needs to keep that body trim.
Yeah. And the other thing before we move on, my New York bias comes into play. Big up, congratulations, Chris Weidman. Got him a W against who's a very, very tough Russian sambo fighter who is not an easy out. I mean, the guy was clearly stronger than him, even though shorter. And Chris, sometimes when you fight someone, you feel someone's power and you're like, oh my God, this is for real. And now I can't just bowl over this guy because I'm bigger. I got to find other ways to win. And Chris got a ton of top position and showed the Russian sambo fighters what a Division I wrestler, Division I All-American's all about. You got sambo wrestling, I give you my D1 All-American. And he just smothered him. Even had the full mount at the end for a 10-8 round. Did some damage because sometimes you punch someone, you're too close, can't inflict as much damage, and all of a sudden you got his coach Ray Longo saying elbows, and it's like oh, okay, wait, that hurt a little more. You mean like this? Do it again. So, all right, cool. So moving on to the next subject. Since COVID, a lot of sports have found a way to get back on television and get their restarts, and the UFC and tennis are able to keep flowing, albeit without fan participation. So the question is, Rob, which sport do you miss the audience the most, and which sport do you not miss the audience at all because you don't really notice? I'm going to go first. The one I miss the audience the most, I was going to say mixed martial arts at the UFC, but I got to say beach volleyball. At the AVP last week when I saw 3 weeks in a row and saw the series, and you went through, and you listened to Jeff Alzina just be an absolute savage, and you listened to a little bit of Kevin Barnett and Cameron Irwin poke back and forth, poke fun at each other. Somewhere in the middle of this was absolutely great volleyball that gathered a round of applause from the coaches and the minimal participants, which were all we needed. We didn't need Rosie's Raiders. With respect, love those guys. Can't wait to get drinking with you guys again and singing karaoke. But the sport, I didn't miss the audience at all. And it's strange because I thought beach volleyball couldn't survive without the audience. I thought that the people and the fans were what it's about. Otherwise, you're gone. And then this eerie ultimate reversal. Rob, I go with beach volleyball. What's the one that you didn't really not notice the audience at all?
That I didn't notice the audience?
Yeah, like you saw it and you're like, okay, I'm just watching the sport and didn't really remember fans.
I would have to say basketball.
Really?
I feel like, maybe they'll change in the playoffs, but for regular season games, it's kind of, the fans don't really put any, I mean, they mean everything, fans mean everything in all sports, but
without them,
I just didn't, it didn't click in my head like, oh, wow, there's no fans there, until, for quite some time. But other sports, I kind of recognized it pretty quickly, like for baseball, how the players were kind of getting at each other at the dugouts and they can kind of hear everything. Tennis, it's kind of missed as well, but there's not really too much interaction with the fans and they're always quieted anyway. So you kind of forget that. So yeah, for me, it was definitely basketball.
All right, so this is when you go first. Which one do you miss the audience the most when you watched it? I already think I know what you're going to say, but go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, actually, I'm going to project to the future and say football. For me, football is almost entirely fan driven in the energy that's generated in the stadiums. And there's so much, every single play is so important in football that you need every ounce of energy. And I feel like it's going to be such a drain on the players to not have something to get you back going for the next play on a tough drive or something else. And obviously it'll create some teamliness, of course. But I just feel like football is going to be a little bit more difficult.
For me, it's baseball. I really just missed having someone getting two strikes and then the audience go, on their feet and then the rumbling and from the bleacher creatures at Yankee Stadium and and just that crowd encouragement to get that third strike, or like when there's people on base and then someone who's capable of batting them in comes up to the plate, and then the audience gets excited and magnetized and galvanized by that. And yet here we are hit with this. I'm gonna show it again. Who the hell is that? Who the hell? That's Bernie, Rob. We're looking at Bernie.
He's back.
For those of you that are listening to this and can't see it, the Kansas City Royals game, they have a fake audience. They have fake faces, I guess cardboard faces or whatever. And they have the guy from Weekend at Bernie's, whatever the hell his name is. You guys will message me and tell me. And Weekend at Bernie's is this movie where this guy was actually dead and they had to pretend he was alive. And it was only a 1-star movie because the audience, as well as the actors trying to portray the characters, would have to be absolutely stupid to not know this man was dead. It's Bernie. I miss. It's crazy because baseball, we know, is not my number one sport, but I am a diehard, lifelong Yankee fan from the 70s. Greg Nettles, Guidry, Hunter, Munson to the 80s, to Willie Randolph, Dave Winfield, Don Mattingly, the 90s. Both anyone whose last name was Williams, Jeter, you name it. I'm all the way up. So I really miss the nostalgia of near postseason play, all the way to October, that the Yankees are oh so familiar with.
I appreciate that because not everybody talks about baseball. So,
all right, no doubt. All right, hey, this is the segment called "To Shame or Not to Shame."
Shame, 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 shame.
Rob, to shame or not to shame? The Oakland A's win 9 straight and then get into a social distance breaking brawl.
Not shame. Only because Houston Astros. All that whole team can get beamed by balls, and if you start hitting anybody else, y'all gonna get it. See, the thing I want to see is that pitcher get suspended the same amount of games that they would get suspended for hitting the Astros. If they can get suspended for hitting the Astros get suspended for quote unquote retaliating.
Listen, anytime you hit an Astro, I call it a service to humanity, but I got to go with shame, Rob. You got to go with shame because the Astros infected us with their cheating, and now you break social distance rules. Now they get to infect everybody the old-fashioned way. All right? I know everybody's been tested, but there's a reason why we're still social distancing. It's asymptomatic. Their cheating is asymptomatic, and honestly, I mean, it's kind of a wash, but I got to go with shame on that. Rob, to shame or not to shame? College football, the Power Five are getting together to discuss canceling this season. To shame or not to shame?
There's a lot of perspectives on this about people coming from areas that, that are difficult, meaning that, in a year or so, this could actually destroy their future because they're going back to positions that they got out of getting to be able to go to college and going to make a life for themselves going forward. So I would have to say it's no shame just because everybody has to be involved, not just the people in tough situations, but people in good situations.
I say
no the safety of the players.
Yep. I say no shame for the Power Five because of many reasons. The Pac-12 is already most likely to cancel. They were the first on board. The Big Ten is steering that direction. In fact, the Big Ten has 2 presidents who are medical doctors, and one of them's an immunologist as opposed to a PhD academic. So with that being said, the SEC and the ACC are probably the last 2 to be romping and stomping, but let's just make this in the spring. No shame. Rob, shame or no shame? Damian Lillard tweets to Paul George, keep switching teams, running from the grind. You boys are chumps.
I mean, I think it goes both ways, but Dame Lillard has had very little to work with his entire career. And he's done great things. You know, he's always had the ball in his hand, and he's never shot away from the moment. On the other hand, Paul George, not as hyped as Dame Lillard, I mean, even at the draft pick, but you know, he had all this. He's the next LeBron. He's going to beat LeBron for many, many years in Indiana, and never really came through. So I'd have to agree with, you know, Dame Lillard on this one.
For me, like you said, it works both ways. The question is who fired the first shot. To me, it doesn't even matter. Damian Lillard, he likes to talk a little trash and get a little attention. But at the end of the day, if you talk trash, you have to be able to back it up. And Damian Lillard, doing more with less, has backed it up over and over and over again, specifically with the guy that he sent home packing, I believe, with the Oklahoma City Thunder with a shot to finish the game. Yep, and that was it. Rob, to shame or not to shame? Draymond Green gets fined $50K for saying Booker from the Phoenix Suns should leave. He was accused of tampering and got fined $50,000. Shame or no shame?
I mean, no shame, because he's making enough money to just spout his mouth off. And, you know, honestly, I don't know why he's saying he should leave, but, you know, he's entitled to say what he wants. And if someone's breaking, you know, protocol, maybe they should leave. But if, you know, it's just Draymond talking his mouth, you know, no shame, because he can do what he wants. It's just going to cost him a little extra money.
Me, I say shame, but not on Draymond Green. Shame on the NBA for finding this man $50K for saying that he should get the hell out of the Phoenix Suns. I'm with you. I disagree as far as the why. I think the Suns have a future. And in the rebuilding thing, I think this guy should be part of that process. But with that being said, Draymond Green was not telling him to leave the Suns and join the Golden State Warriors. If he was saying that, fine him. I consider that tampering. But just to tell him to get the hell out of Dodge is the same thing any player, coach, fan, or pundit should be telling everybody about Tom Thibodeau to get the hell away from the New York Knicks. Okay, one more shame, but no shame. Let's just see if your battery holds up. Simmons is out. Embiid is injured. Embiid still wants to play in the playoffs.
I mean, no shame. Just because, you know, these guys are always injured, so I don't really expect much from them anyway. But yeah, no shame, because at least he's trying to get back involved. At least he's trying to get back in. It seemed like Ben Simmons kind of been checked out for last year or two. So for me, no shame for these guys.
I'm with you in a sense, no shame either way. Like if Embiid chooses to play, there's no shame. If he chooses to just sit out the rest of this soon-to-be forgotten season, there's no shame either with that. You got a whole bunch of people opting out not to play, and Embiid is a warrior, but sometimes you have to save you from yourself. And Philadelphia, a city that is loyal and always wants their players to play, almost to a point where they boo Santa Claus, would totally give Embiid a pass if he decided to sit out. But if he wants to play, no shame, man. No shame, my brother. Cool. That is the end of shame, no shame. And now at the end, I'm going to give a shout out to my team, the Brooklyn Nets. They won yesterday, and they secured the 7th seed, so they're in the playoffs. And the playoffs, I believe we got the Raptors playing the Bucks tonight. Going to be an interesting match. Actually, this broadcast comes tomorrow, so that match would have already happened. So let's talk. You guys can message me and talk about the winner of that and this and that. Rob, anything?
Not too much. I think I'm glad the sports are back, man, and so I'm enjoying watching all.
Aren't we? I mean, look, it's everything we thought it would be. It's a quarantine turns into quarantine. That's all we got today. That's all we got, man. This is the end of episode 29. I hope it's 29, or I'm just wrong. For everybody at home, for everybody on their laptop, for everybody on their desktop who runs the world, old school, for everybody on their iPhone, sorry, for everybody on their Android, I don't say that enough, for Rob, keep it McLean, I am Jason DeBeas, and we hope to see you next week. And we say peace out. Come check out the Option Podcast on OptionDB.com. It's also available on iTunes and Spotify, and on YouTube under the NY Varsity Sports handle. You're going to love what you hear.